great. I'm great. Thanks.
Coach, some teams like the Eagles, the Tush Push, the Seahawks back in 2005 behind Walter Jones, Steve Hutchinson, Tom Brady's sneak had like one play for short yardage that they really go to. Do you think it's more important to be really good at one play in short yardage or have a variety of things that at your disposal?
I think a lot of that depends on personnel. We're still seeking that one play, obviously, but I do think that it's kind of forced us to evaluate the personnel situations in all those type of scenarios. So I think that once you find your groove, you can build things off of that and continue to complement those things.
It's all an information gathering process. You've had those opportunities during the year. What have you learned about not just personnel, but what information have you gained from those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think game to game it depends a little bit as far as the type of situations that you're in or the type of defenses you're facing. But for us, it's always just evaluating how good was the plan, how good was the execution, and for us at the end of the day, it falls on both. I think we could have done a better job having a better plan certainly and being more creative. And I think there could have been a little better execution at times. Of course, I think what our guys always do a good job of is having good ownership. So for us, we're just looking for the best possible answers and solutions to try to find the best way to get in the end zone.
What do you like about on the short yards, specifically having Ken and Zach on the field together?
Well, I think the more threats, obviously, the better. Anytime they have to think about two guys that have gotten the ball in short yardage situations, I think it makes it more difficult on them.
You mentioned finding your groove, and obviously we're 12 games in now. There's been a lot of shifting personnel. Did you feel like you guys would have that at this point in terms of more of that groove,
yeah,
that
of course,
identity?
of course. That's fair. I think that for us, we just haven't had the consistent success in those moments, and I think the thing you got to do is continue to search and try to find better answers. And for us, that's what we committed to do.
Ryan, can you talk about the complexity and yet the simplicity of the scramble drill? The complexity, I've heard from DK, and also that there's certain routes they have to do in the scramble drill.
Yeah.
And then today, Gino said, you know what? I just got to get the ball to the receiver. Can you just talk about that?
Well, I certainly think there's an instinctive piece to quarterbacks, when to leave the pocket and, how to deal with that when they do. And so there's an innate piece, but I think having some fallback baseline rules that guys can execute when the football leaves the pocket and the quarterback's on the move, I think that as long as you have a simple set of rules, which we do, the guys can find those areas and sit down. And then certainly for receivers, they understand what the challenges are for the quarterback as far as which way is he rolling, where's he at, how deep am I, who's in front of me, just locating space and understanding how to use the sideline and where to find pockets that would be easier for the quarterback to see and throw to. So I think as long as everybody's on the same page, that part is extremely important.
Is that what makes this receiving coach so special in that regard? Because they understand. I mean, they're looking at it from the quarterback's eyes. So then
I think there's a piece there, of course, yeah, for sure. But you got some veteran guys too, some guys that are just really good players too, right? They understand sideline mechanics and where a quarterback's at. They have familiarity with Gino, which always helps, and I think that's a big part of it as well.
The run game overall, excuse me, not just short yardage, but where do you feel like you guys are at with the run game?
Yeah, I thought last week was probably our best week as far as working the football inside the B gaps and getting physical on some of those double teams. There were certainly some times in the Jets game where I felt like we were dominating the line of scrimmage and moving those double teams, and they did a great job with it. I thought at the right moments on a couple of those long drives, that was really what helped us sustain. So I thought last week was one of our biggest steps in the run game, and I thought we did a great job.
Along those lines, what do you think of Lamea in his NFL debut?
Tower did great. I thought he was impressive. His footwork, he's such a balanced player, and I really think he's only going to get better. There's definitely some times where things probably felt big for him, but I thought once he got going in the game, it was just playing ball, and I think that's what Tower does a great job of, is just letting the game come to him. He doesn't get overwhelmed, and he's a physical player. That certainly showed up with him finishing some guys, in the run game for sure. But just getting the calls and staying in rhythm, I was impressed how he was able to do that, especially, early in the game. That's always where guys sometimes they can hit a bump that's so significant they can't get themselves out of that. And I thought Tower did a great job just playing each series and just letting the game come to him. So he played awesome.
What are the things he's showed to you recently that got him into the lineup that he didn't have when the season started?
Yeah, I think for Tawa, certainly the physical skill set's been there, and there's been some things that we've been impressed with since day one. I think for Tawa, he's coming from a very different system, and so I think just verbiage and terminology, pass set structures, things like that. Those things take a little bit of time, and so it certainly wasn't just a week. This has been a process, and something we've definitely been looking at and giving reps to Tawa for a while, and we just felt like he was going to give us our best chance, and he's really like the last, I would say, month, 3 weeks, really come on and just felt more comfortable in the offense and the calls and executed really well.
Is there something?
Mike's out of college, the headsets with Dixon out, like figuring out what you guys are doing situationally. What was that like for you as a coordinator? We're like, we might not be able to punt, like going for it on 4th and 6 from your 33.
Yeah, there was a couple of those got sprung on me last second, so it was. I think you got to be ready for situations like that. Obviously, I mean, you have calls ready for 3rd downs and 4th downs and opportunities. Understand where the clock's at and what the score is and things like that. And as long as you get the information far enough ahead, you can structure some of the calls you make early in the series. And I think that's the most important part. As long as you have the info early, you can plan ahead and think about, 4 downs to get this done.
I'm sure every season has unique challenges like that where a punter goes down or there's injuries on the line, or every season's different. I'm just wondering, stepping into this role, what do you feel like you've learned through the process of this season to this point?
Oh, wow. There's tons of things. I think, finding ways to build your team around the guys you got are things that we've always been pretty good at. And I think that we've tried to, highlight those things and keep building around the guys that we have and the players we have. But as far as like learning processes, I think that, the coordinator families in the NFL and where guys come from and the different type of processes those, defensive families, so to speak, have. I think that's probably one of the biggest things because everybody kind of comes from certain trees. And so certainly evaluating some of those things and seeing what type of things people draw back to is unique to the NFL.
Going back to the right side of that line, is there anything about personalities or maybe similar edges, like when you pair guys together? Because it seems like Abe and Toa might have like a similar kind of approach and personality.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I think they are both wired in a way where, they're kind of pull the reins back kind of guys. And so they both play really hard. They finish well. They just got a really good mentality. They both love football. And so it's easy to work with guys like that. And it's been a lot of fun, and I think those guys are very, they're both quiet. They're not going to say a ton. But when they get out there, they certainly want to talk with their pads.
Has there been a tree you've done, a defensive NFL coaching tree that you've done maybe a deeper dive on this season because of what you were just alluding to?
Probably the biggest one was Mike's. As silly as that sounds, but there's people that have obviously come from Mike's system that are paired throughout the NFL that we faced or have influences from that. And so those are the ones that have been deeper dive, I guess.
What is it about this system that's so tough?
Well, I think they're creative. I think they give different pictures, and that's always something that I think Mike is unique to, that he does a good job of attacking your weak points and understanding, what are the things that are going to be problematic, and then he'll build those things around that.
For you, Ryan, what have you noticed as the biggest difference between coaching for an offensive-minded head coach versus a defensive-minded head coach?
It is definitely a first for me there, and Coach Frazier and Mike are definitely defensive guys. So I think that it's just perspective, honestly. You have to, at first you can, even way back to OTAs, I'd be like, wow, I would have liked to, run 20, 30 more plays in this situation and not been with the defense and things like that. So there's things that I think how they look at things. Sometimes I think defensively there's more of a holistic approach to it versus, sometimes offensive guys are just like run as many plays as you want or whatever you need to do, and you can focus more on that way. And I think there's give and take in both those situations. But certainly what I've appreciated about Mike is, his understanding of, how to win games, and that's what I think in the last few weeks we've really come together on that, if we need to hang on to the ball and take care of it and they're playing lights out, then we can do that. If we have to be explosive and try to go after people and play catch up, we can do that too. So I think marrying those things together and continue to learn that process has been valuable.
What's it been like working with, a new head coach for the first time in a while? Especially when things don't always go exactly as you want. You don't have that history to lean back on.
Yeah, that's good. I think that you have to trust your decision making early on, and there's a reason I took this job and the trust that I have in Mike, and I think that that's a huge part of any relationship, right? Whether it's a working relationship or whatever, and certainly there's built up reps, so to speak, with a guy like Kalen when I was with him for a long time, and so when you hit those bumps in the road, they're easier to manage and get through. So certainly this season has provided a lot of growth opportunities for Mike and I, and I'm thankful for that. And I think the relationship has gotten stronger, and the understanding of what we're trying to get done as a team just continues to build. So it's been fun, honestly.
Is the tempo like what you were just talking about? Like sometimes we got to hold the ball, maybe an 8-minute drive against the Cardinals, or sometimes we got to go quick. Is that different than in college generally?
No, I think what it comes down to in the NFL, what teams do such a better job of is just understanding how to hold the ball. And, you don't see sometimes as much discipline in the college game where you just have more opportunities and plays and drives, honestly. I mean, last game, not counting the kneel down, I think we had 8 drives, and so 8 possessions is not a lot, So that's something I think you certainly have to factor into every game, and you can't play tight or think I'm not going to be, aggressive in these situations, but you have to be mindful of what's going on in the football game to make sure that you're being smart about it.
Is that something you and Mike are always discussing during?
Oh yeah, yep. Mike's good about that. He knows that he doesn't have to point out the obvious stuff, but I think that those are conversations that certainly come up.
3 of your 4 quarterback sneaks this year have worked. The only one that didn't was a questionable spot maybe in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Talk about why it isn't as simple as let's do that more often in short yardage.
Yeah, without giving anything away, I think there's things, obviously, defenses, some people are better at it than others.
Why do you think you guys were better in the B-gaps and stuff in the run game against the Jets?
Honestly, I thought it was the inside players. I thought our inside players played really well. I thought Olu and the guards, I thought the double teams were really good. And then really I thought our guard play was pretty good in general. I thought Tower and Lake did a good job of setting the tone, whether they were doubling with Olu or one of the tackles. I just thought the vertical double teams in the run game were probably as good as we've seen this year.
And with guys like Noah and Tyler, who are so used to being featured in the passing game over the course of their careers, how have you seen them handle not getting as many targets as maybe they've been accustomed to?
Those guys they're awesome. And I think that any guy that's being honest, they want the ball, and Tyler is probably about as good a human being as you've ever met in your life, right? And he's not going to be somebody that's coming unglued when he's not getting the ball, but everybody wants the football. And I just think that, the reliance on the team and knowing that, whatever it takes to win the game, they're going to be part of that. They both have only exemplified that at all times. So, I'm always appreciative of that, and certainly they're both playmakers, and we want to get them the ball, and I do think the ball finds those guys. But, anytime we can highlight them, we definitely try to. Sometimes it plays out differently on who's getting the targets, depending on what defense is trying to take away. But they've been awesome.
How are you feeling about Abe Lucas's progress? Now he's got a few weeks under his belt.
Yeah, he's impressive. He's getting better every week. I think the calls get faster. The timing is quicker from when he's hearing the call to understanding, like, how to apply it to the defense and what he's doing. I think I mentioned this before, but he's really serious in his preparation, and I mean that in a really, really complimentary way. He'll ask her, can I get that play again against this front? I really want to see this, and I actually pointed that out to the offensive unit the other day that he did such a good job of almost demanding, like, I have to be ready for this game, and I thought that was the ultimate pro thing for him to do. So it was really cool. I think he's just going to continue to grow. I think he's going to be a dominant player.
Anything else? Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Coach.